And what I'm going to be sharing with you today is how to create a blend between a pixie and a bob. And we've been seeing a lot of these right now. So it's so much fun to work with a couple of different concepts as we are working through those techniques. And what I'm doing right now is I'm creating an area of disconnection. So I'm going through and I am placing some zigzags, or actually triangles, which will create a zigzag parting into this sectioning pattern. I always like to say, let's go slow to go fast. So I'm taking my time. I started with a radial section from recession to recession, and now I'm going through creating actually a zigzag by placing these little triangles in. So I'm borrowing some of the hair from the underneath to put it into the top. Now, you guys, I have my husband right behind the camera today, so he can help with questions. And so if you do have any questions, feel free to ask, and he'll try to get them to me as we are working. Okay, so I've got my different little zigzags up here. And in the caption on when we were starting, I said, you know, is it going to be a bob or is it going to be a pixie? And who will win out? Who comes out on top? So underneath is going to be a kind of a pixie type of feeling. It's going to be soft and shaggy. On top, we will have a bob. And then on top of that, once it's dry, I'm going to place some texturizing in it, which will give us a beautiful soft feel. So here we go. This is called block cutting. So I'm going to go in and do a little bit of block cutting, which gives us a nice soft feeling as the hair drops down. So I'm elevating everything up to 90 degrees, leaving enough length that I've got some softness. So I don't know if you were around doing hair in the 90s when we had a lot of disconnected shapes, a lot of skater do's, we called them, but they were very extreme. So we had a lot of shaved underneath, and then we had long on top. Really no blending, no rhyme or reason to it. So what I want is a cohesiveness between these two techniques, something that ties them together and creates a beautiful shape. These should be very commercial. We're seeing kind of a return to the 90s type of feeling. We've got a lot of hair kind of kicking out right now. So it's pretty interesting just kind of seeing how the progression of hair cutting works. So once again, my name is Sana Brado, and I am the owner and founder of Angel Blade Scissors, which I'm using right here. The company called Serious Beauty, which is an education-based company, and then also Sharp Scissor Society, which is my monthly membership. So coming through, I'm doing some block cutting. So I'm removing length underneath. I'm kind of creating a blend between a pixie and a bob. It's been called a bixie. It's been called shaboixie. I don't know. There's all sorts of different crazy names for it. But really what it is a blend of a couple of different haircuts. So you can see I've got that softness that was created with that zigzag parting, over directing everything up, and then cutting that hair off. It's a great way to create your guide on top. And you could do this without the zigzags if you wanted to. But I like the zigzags because it gives a little bit softer blend between the top and the bottom. So now that I have my guide in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and take that guide, and I'm going to work still kind of a shaggy feeling into the hair. And I'm going to work square. So whenever you create a square on a round surface like this, you're going to create some softness and you'll create some weight on top and a little bit of blending and softness as it goes down. So I'm utilizing a traveling guide around the back. And this is kind of how I would do my pixies too. I oftentimes, instead of cutting the hair off at the bottom, what I do is I go in and I create that soft edge so that I can then choose the shape that I want to have. So just coming in, continuing that around, just taking off that little bit of hair right here. Now, I'd love to know where you guys are joining from. So go ahead and maybe type in the comments where you live and where you're coming from. And I'd also love to know how many years you've been doing hair. Who's my audience today? So go ahead and just let me know that, and Mark will kind of call it out. Would be great. So once again, where are you from?
Reno, Shirley.
Okay, Shirley is from Reno. Welcome. Just coming through. Okay, so I'm going to have one side that I'll do where I've cut the bottom off, and then we'll take a look at both sides. And then we've got Shirley there. I see 20 years. Good for you, Shirley. Okay, coming in, creating that square. So this square is going to create a little bit of weight on top and softness underneath. So this, again, is kind of how I approach my pixies, so that I've got softness underneath, and then I can do whatever I want on top, and then take this out. Oh, we have someone in Cleveland, Ohio. Speaking of Ohio, I'm going to be in Columbus, Ohio on June 12th, which is a Monday. I'm doing a hands-on full day of short hair. So it's called Divide and Conquer. And what it is it's, I go in and I view all hair basically like this, from the scalp out. And so inside of this short hair class that I'm doing in Ohio on June 12th, I'm going to be sharing how I break down, divide and conquer short haircuts, so it becomes very easy to decide what you want to do. So if you're in the Ohio area or anywhere around there, please join me for that class. The link is in my bio on Instagram, and I can also put it up inside of Facebook. So, but I know a lot of you guys follow me on Instagram. So it's there, and it's in Eventbrite. Okay, so coming through, and you can see how much hair that's taken off. So on this side, if I wanted to create a really cool, like long shag that's really thin at the bottom, I could go ahead and keep this long underneath and then work a longer length on top. I'm going for a little bit shorter feeling right now, so I'm going ahead and taking this hair off. After this, we'll be dropping that top area. Now I started this cut with a radial parting from recession to recession, and then I went in and just created these zigzags, or actually little triangles, which then create a zigzag. So here we are. So I've had a couple people. I saw someone that had 50 years of experience, which that is awesome. Thank you for still being in the industry. There's so much to learn, and so much to continue working and growing with. Okay, here we are. I want to thank Hairbrain for allowing me to come on and share with you guys live. I always love working with those guys. They're great. Gerard and all the team there really takes good care of the stylists. So cutting off a little bit at the bottom, because I don't want that to be too long. And you'll see that this is a really nice soft shape. Okay, so what are some questions you guys have? Do many of you do short hair right now? I know we've had a lot of long hair, a lot of, what do I want to say? You know, balayage and curled hair, that type of feeling, which is absolutely beautiful. But I think we're starting to see a little bit of a return to hair cutting. And that's evidenced in a lot of the requests that I get from around the country for haircutting classes. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to spray a little bit of the Add Power in from KMS, and that's it's really a great strengthening spray. I like to use it on fine textured hair, and it gives just a light hold. So I'm actually going to go ahead and blow dry this underneath area. Maybe. Oh, that's not working. Okay, that's fine. I'll have my husband push the, click the little thing on the, what is that thing called on the plug? Yeah. So the power cord. So what I've done is I've started out, and I'll show you on the head form. I started out and I did a radial parting from recession to recession. Then to create the zigzag, what I did was I just went in and I took a center V like that. Oh, I have power. Then went over each ear and then just went in between the two. And it creates a beautiful zigzag that works for color and cutting. So it's a really nice way to be able to access a zigzag. Then what I did was I went through and I elevated everything up 90 degrees from that part line, so about here. So all of the hair came up to that point, and I cut it off, which creates that soft feeling underneath. Then I went in and cut off some of the bottom. So back to our girl. Thank you, Mark. Let's just go ahead. I'm going to dry this off. And this is kind of different for your clients. I love to do a little bit of drying the hair before and then also drying the hair after, because it is something that's different. And I think it's always important to give our clients a little bit of a different experience. Now, inside of this, if I were doing this consultation with a client, I would definitely let them know that they're going to have an undercut, and it's going to be shorter underneath. We always want to let them know that, because when they let their hair down or they pull it out to curl it, if they don't see anything under there, they're going to wonder what happened. So I'm going to let down my triangles next, and this is going to be kind of a blending section. So once again, there's these triangles right here. And what we're doing is we're kind of creating a blend between a pixie and a bob. And so I want my bob to sit over the top of this, but not be too one length. I want it to be very textured. So coming in now with my razor, you find it, there it is. I'm going to come in with my razor and create a little bit of a blend. And some clients like razors, some clients don't. And so I usually will always ask if they like a razor. So I would love to know what questions you guys have right now for me. What would you like to know about doing either pixies or bobs, or consultations, face shape, anything like that would be fine. So if you have any questions at all, go ahead and ask those. I'm going to probably take the underneath a little shorter, I think. So it's very soft. This, once again, is part of the blending. I'm coming on either side of that triangle and coming through. Now, a lot of what I'm talking about today is going to be part of my one-day hands-on class in Columbus, Ohio, and that is on June 12th. So if you're in that area, look that up. It's on Eventbrite. It can also be found on my Instagram page, and I'll link it as well after. I think I can link it on this video. I'll check and see. Okay, so I think based on how the length that I've got right here, I'm going to go in and create a little bit of a shorter feeling down underneath. Just kind of soften that out, bring it up just a touch. There we go.
There's a certain bob you'd recommend for curly hair.
Okay, is there a certain bob I would recommend for curly hair? Bobs with curly hair are really interesting because you can either get a really expanded shape or you can get kind of an elongated shape depending on the actual structure of the cut. The more hair you leave at one length, the more it's going to expand outward in a triangle. If you place graduation in the hair, it's going to actually lift and build volume and width as it travels up. So I think it really depends on the face shape. But I think bobs with curly hair are so beautiful. I tend to do a little bit of layering or graduation in those bobs as opposed to just one length. Okay, so we have our blending pieces over the top. And now I'm going to let the top down. So coming through here, I think I'll switch to my carve and slide scissors. So these are great when you want to use a razor, but maybe you don't want, the client doesn't want the razor. So the carve and slide are really nice. Hair in my mouth. Carve and slide are really nice to give you that kind of blend. So I'm going to drop this top and then determine how much we actually want to leave. Here we go. Okay, so the carve and slide are a dry cutting scissor, but I use them wet as well. And they create kind of that soft blend from short to long. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be coming across the top of this hair, and I'm going to establish my length. Then I'll go through the top and work and carve out a lot of the weight. Let's see here. I'm going to raise this and lower it just a little bit because I can see I'm in the comments. There we go. Is that better? You guys can see a little bit better there? Okay, so I'm going to be coming across the top and changing the shape by removing the length. So we come over the top here. I'll work this way. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take a vertical section. You can see that section right there. I'm going to pull it down. I can see where my guide is. So I'm going to come across the top of that and work with my carve and slides. And you can see how that's just creating that real gentle blend of short to long. So it's going to give us a really nice feeling and softness. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but how the scissor is actually pushing the hair. We go right across that top. It's just kind of working and carving out that hair. Just all these little short to long pieces, very similar to what a razor will do. We have this. So one of the things with bobs and working with facial structure is you want to decide how much fullness you want to leave at the bottom. And usually if there's like a fuller jawline, I'll do a little bit more of a layering type of pattern. And sometimes you want more fullness. So it just really depends. Did you have a question there, Mark? It looked like you did.
No, the guy asked a curly question just said thank you.
Ah, yes.
Adam.
You're welcome, Adam. There we go. Coming on through. And the way that I started this cut, because I just saw some more people joined, is I started off with a radial parting from recession to recession and then did some zigzags. And underneath, it's all disconnected. So all of this underneath is kind of almost like a pixie. And then I'm working across the top and creating a bob. Then we're going to go in and do a lot of texture. So right now, just taking that hair and working with my carve and slide scissors, and creating that little bob shape. So what this is going to give us is just this really nice, soft shape. And then I think at the end, we're going to do a little pixie fringe on it. So kind of almost connect that underneath a little bit with the length and do a little fringe. I think fringes right now are so relevant, and they are coming back in force. How many of you guys watched Wednesday Addams and saw the fringe on that? That was a winner. I mean, we've got so many of those running around now. But all fringes are really kind of just interesting. Coming through. This kind of reminds me a little bit of maybe Winona Ryder in the 90s, you know, kind of that shaggy type of shape she had. Okay, so you can see all that movement developing, and it's like this great little, you know, pixie thing going on. So when I'm working with something like this with clients, I always like to stand them up. So when a client stands up, you see the hair in a little bit different manner, instead of always looking down like we do as hairstylists. So I'm always standing my clients up and working with them as an entire person, not just from the neck up. So with something like this, I'd probably cut it, the underneath wet, dry it off, and then start on this top area. And then I'll be drying the top, and then we'll go in and we'll create a lot of texture on the top area. I know we just had a bunch of new people join. Where are you guys from? I'd like to know where you're watching from. Where's the audience coming from today? Because this will be up later on Hairbrained. And so I know a lot of it gets watched later, but I'd like to know where you guys are from and watching from right now. I got a Chicago. I was just there. I did the ABS show. Did you go to it? How many of you guys went to the ABS show? Oh, North Wales, you didn't go to the ABS show. It was fun. It was a good show. Hey, Michigan, yay.
Oh, she's one of the girls, the Bereshnikov last name, Yoko Bereshnikov. She met you there.
Oh, I did meet you there. That's great. Yeah, we did a fringe class. I did a bob class on that.
Just outside London.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we're working. I'm trying to work with Mr. Ben Brown and see if I can do an event with him over in London at some point next year. Okay, I just want to take a little bit more off underneath. It's interesting because so many things, like techniques that you're seeing even today, like what I'm doing today, but also all over Instagram and Facebook, are founded in classic cutting. Even though there's a lot of texture and a lot of things going on, you basically have 3 ways to cut hair. And most of the educators out there right now are really highly skilled, but doing very, very loose techniques. And because that's what's popular right now. So, yeah, Ben Brown's awesome. But all of the techniques that we do, to create a shape like this, they're founded in classics. So I've utilized underneath, I've utilized layering, a little bit of graduation, and now I'm utilizing a one length feeling on this particular cut. And what that does is it gives you the structure for your cut, but also the ability to be very creative with your cut. So on here, I'm going to go ahead and blow dry this. I've got a little bit of the styling foam, and I love working with mousses. They're great. They give a nice light feeling. I had somebody the other day ask me if mousses will dry out the hair. And no, I mean, if you were to soak hair in mousse for like an hour, maybe 2 hours, it might do something, but for the most part, no.
And it's from KMS.
Yeah, and it's from KMS. And they have just great products. Okay, so let's take a look here at the disconnection in this cut. So you can see the underneath has kind of a little bit more of a pixie shape. It's short. And then the top comes down over that. And we have kind of this like little pixie bob. And so I'm going to dry this off. And then what I'm going to do is go in and create a really cool little fringe and texturize through this hair with my carving slides. What is that comment? Big fan,
William
37.
Perry, North Carolina here. Big fan.
Thank you.
Love you and love KMS products. 37 years in the biz.
Oh.
Love your techniques.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, so I'm drying. I'm just going to use my hands to dry this instead of a brush because I do want to keep a little bit of just of the natural texture in this shape. So I'm going to be blow drying this around. If it was a client, I would probably diffuse the hair. And I might do a little bit more texture when it's actually wet. But I'd like to be able to see what I'm doing. So it's coming through. That little bit of kind of that graduation that I have in the back, see how much fullness that's actually giving the shape. Just working through. This is the new Air Q dryer from Varus, since I know somebody's going to ask. So right there, little Varus. And it's nice and quiet, very, very lightweight. One of my clients yesterday said, I've never seen such a tiny blow dryer. So just brushing that hair, working that hair from side to side. And just kind of zhuzhing. I call it zhuzhing, where you kind of like just work with your hands to move the hair around and create a little bit of movement. So what we've done so far is we've undercut this shape, and then I cut a little bit of a bob shape on top, and now I'm going to be going through and working mostly with my carve and slide scissors to create texture and separation. And then we're going to do a little bobby. So giving a little bit of a kick out. So just using my fingers to zhuzh, tip it out a little bit. You really want to see that texture develop. So I know I already told you guys about my Columbus, Ohio class on June 12th. So anyone in that area, I would love to see you. Tickets for that are $5.50 for the full day of hands-on and the look and learn in the morning. And if you want to go to just the look and learn in the morning, that's $200. So I'll be doing a couple of models, which I do need models for that class still. I'm going to put an announcement out soon. I'm looking for some specific things. So I'll be doing 2 models during the look and learn. And then I'm going to be doing, the rest of the day will be hands-on, working with divide and conquer, which is my my method for creating haircuts. So I actually start out every haircut thinking about it like this head form, and what areas do I need to work in layering, graduation, or one length in order to create the shape that I want to create. So that is part of my signature hair cutting method. So that is going to be on June 12th in Columbus, Ohio. Okay, so I'm digging this.
Ciao da Italia.
Oh, ciao Italia. Hello. Hello, hello. Okay, let's go ahead. And I'm going to start working through, I think I'll cut my fringe first and then start working into the rest of the texture for this cut. So just a little recap for the people that have just joined. I started out this shape with a radial parting from recession to recession, right like this, right here. So I divided the top from the bottom. Then what I did was I went in and created some V's, which made a zigzag parting. It's a really easy way to create a zigzag parting. So if you did miss that, I said, is this a demo of how your haircut is? Not really, but it's kind of a similar shape. Mine doesn't have as much of an undercut. It's just a little bit at the nape. So then I went in underneath and I elevated the hair up and then cut it off and then just created a little soft pixie shape underneath. Then we dropped the top, and now we're working into our bob shape and our fringes. So let's see here. Where's our nose? There we go. Okay, so for a fringe, what do you guys think? I'd love to do what you want. I could do a curtain fringe. I could do a kind of like a heavy fringe. I could do what I call a West Coast fringe that can go either direction. Side swept. That's enough options. So would you prefer to see something that works off to the side? Something that is like heavier? A curtain fringe? First person to answer, I'll do it. So do we have anyone?
Lucia's wondering where you're at.
Lucia's wondering where I'm at. I am located in Spokane, Washington, USA. So I'm up in the Pacific Northwest, kind of by Seattle.
So she knows grunge.
Yeah, if you know grunge. Okay, somebody said side cut fringe. Thank you, Caroline. I'm going to do a side fringe. So we have to decide which side she wants to work towards. Somebody else said curtain, you're too late. First one said, oh, then somebody said heavy. Okay, what about this? I'll do all three. I can do a side first, then I can do curtain, then I can do heavy. Sound good? Because we have plenty of time. We're only 30 minutes in. I'm supposed to be an hour. I can cut fast if I need to and talk fast. Okay, so we'll do a side parted fringe first. So if you're working on this type of fringe and you really want it to be something that sits off to the side a little bit higher, then just take it shorter. I'm going to leave it a little bit longer so that we can do all three fringes, okay? So let's say we're parting on the right-hand side. So that's over here. I'm going to take my fringe section, which the fringe section, the maximum amount that it can be will be, actually I'll pull my little girl over. There we go, Felty. Is from the high point of the head. Hang on, and I know that I've got a question there, but that's the high point. Yes, Mark?
Just to let you know, everything's reversed on the camera. So
okay.
You look like a lefty.
Oh, I look like a lefty. I'm not a lefty. I'm actually a righty. I forgot about that. Okay, so the fringe can go from the high point out to the corner of the eyebrow. So that's the maximum amount of fringe that you can have without it infringing on the rest of the cut. So I'm going to take it just a little bit less than that. So we're going to work off of a side part. Here we go. So I have a side part right there. I'm going to keep this section over here out of the way to blend in later. I'll switch to my 6-inch scissors. Can you lower that just a little bit, Mark? So it's, there you go. Yeah. Okay, now what I want is I want to create a short to long feeling. Short hair always pushes long hair. So I'm going to be taking a diagonal section, work diagonally across, and I'll over direct the hair to the opposite side that I want it to flow. So here comes my first section. And I like to just twist this so it stays separate, but I can also use the same clip and just get it out of the way. So now this hair is going to come off of the parting. So if I were to look at the hair and the parting, the back of the comb right there, and then tip it down. Here, go this way, Mark. Nope, just turn. My husband's like backwards. There you go. It's hard because he's looking in his camera and my camera like that. Okay, so I'm going to pull this across and we'll leave this nice and long. If you wanted it to be like above the eye, you would take it a little bit shorter. So we're coming here. I'm going to go there and we'll just cut that off. Now you could, of course, point cut this. You can go ahead and set it down for me. You could point cut, or you can go in and razor this. You could do any type of cutting you want. But what happens is short hair always pushes long. So this is going to come over here and then it goes short to long. I'm going to use that as a stationary guide and bring everything into that point. What's that? I'm just going to come up a touch. There we go. Okay, here comes my second section. I'll do this in 3 sections. So my parting is going to remain parallel to my previous parting. There we are. That out of the way. And then comb this right on top. I'm maintaining about a 45-degree elevation. So I'm not up really high or I'm not down at 0. So I'm just kind of coming in and keeping it consistent. And there won't be a ton of hair to cut off. There we go. And then my last section right on top. Now always when you're cutting hair, the lower your elevation, the heavier your shape will become. The higher the elevation, the lighter your shape will become. Okay, so I'm going to have to blow dry that under because I kind of kicked it out when I was blow drying. But there we have kind of that short to long side swept. Now on the opposite side, I'm going to grab my guide right there and just comb this over and blend in from there. So just a soft blending of that side. Okay, so I'm going to blow dry that under so you guys can see it. And then we'll move on to the next fringe. So we've taken that, blow drying it under. And off to the side. And the other side, the same thing. And there we go. Okay, so there you have that side swept fringe. And if you are having trouble keeping it out of the eyes, a great thing to do is come in, and I like to use my 40 tooth texturizer. And what this does is it helps push the hair the opposite direction. So I'm going to come in right along that edge, and I'm going to come in and just texturize right across the edge, working with the same concept of short hair pushing long hair off to the opposite side. So there we go. And that helps it kind of stay up out of the eyes as well. We'll come on this side and do the same thing. Okay, so that is one set of bangs. The next one we're going to do will be the curtain fringe. So I need to actually reposition my fringe a little bit because I did come off of a side part. So I'm just going to shift that and incorporate just a touch more from the opposite side. So there we go. All right. Now the curtain fringe typically works off of a center part. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to work off that center part right here. I can get it in the center. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to work with a series of triangles. So I'm going to use a small triangle in the middle, then a larger triangle, and then the final triangle, which is the big area that I'm working on right now. So coming through right here. Now, if I want to have a heavy fringe, I'm going to keep my elevation low. So this top elevation is going to be low. If I want it to be lighter, I'm going to come up here. So I'm going to go ahead and go a little bit lighter with this. And let's see, I'll take this a little bit shorter. And I'm over directing everything to the center right now. So everything is in the center, which is going to cause it to push out to those sides. My next triangle, so that was a small one, my next triangle gets a little bit bigger. And it's interesting because you can add any of these fringes on top of a bob. You just have to decide, do you want it to blend in or not blend in? So once we hit that heavy fringe, it's not going to blend, it's going to sit by itself. But these two will have kind of blended in. So everything coming up into the center, right there, and cutting right on top of my guide. Then that pushes out, and you've got that nice little curtainy fringe. So you could go in, you could take the center, that first section, a little bit shorter if you wanted to. One of my favorite little tricks so that you can actually see out of a fringe like this is to go back in right in the center to that very first triangle, going back to my texturizers and just working some texture straight out from there. And then you have this great little spot right in the middle that pushes either side, and you can actually see through it. So you could do the same thing that I did on the side swept and come through and work your way out, giving just a little bit of support to that fringe. So let's take a look at that blending in to the rest of the cut with that little kind of a pixie type of shape there underneath. So we've got all of that short hair underneath. You've got the hair on top that can kick out. We haven't even added any texture to the top yet. So we can create still more. I want to do the last fringe for you, which is the heavy fringe. So this is going to be similar to the curtain fringe in that I'm going to work kind of triangular sections off. Well, actually, no, I'll do it a little different. I'm going to work vertical sections. So I want to show you guys some different things. So let's see here. We'll go back to our fringe section. And now this fringe will not blend with the rest of the hair. So this is going to be a separate fringe. Now inside of the short hair class that I'm doing in Ohio on June 12th, I'm going to be working with short hair and face shapes and doing fringes. So there's going to be a lot incorporated into that class. And then I'm also in the Atlanta area on July 8th and 9th, and that's a 2-day intensive hands-on cutting class. There'll be a look and learn in the morning of the first day, and then there'll be the hands-on portion. So, okay, we are now going to work into our heavy fringe. So the heavy fringe needs to have a low elevation. So if you remember on the curtain fringe, what I did, I was working up off of the front hairline, almost 90 degrees off of the front hairline. Now I'm going to be working flat. I call it serving tea. So I want a teacup to sit right on top of that and not, tip down or tip up. So I'm going to take a central vertical section. So I'm going to go start right in the middle. I'll utilize a traveling guide on either side. And I'm going to bring everything out to the front and cut a square. So what a square will do is it'll give you a little bit more length as it travels out to the side. So here we go. The central vertical section. I call this the Wednesday Atom fringe because that was heavy, and then you could create a little disconnection if you wanted. Should I go short? Do you want to see it short? I do. I'm going to take it short. Okay. Uh-oh. Question.
Not necessarily. But Anna Wintour, like she's the
yeah.
Vogue, is that basically?
No, I don't know if you guys can. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear my husband Mark. He was asking, is that kind of like Anna Wintour's fringe? To me, I'd have to look at her fringe right now, but I think it does have that little bit of a bevel. This gives a really nice bevel to the fringe as opposed to cutting it down at 0 degrees and in one length, because that would be considered blunt, wouldn't it? It's a one length line. So by cutting this square line off of the front, it gives a slight bevel. So I think, yes, I think that could be a great way to describe that, Mark. Okay, so here we go. And I've seen people say, yes, the shorter the better. Okay, so I'm going to take this and we're going to go right about here. Okay. Ooh, that's kind of nice. Okay, so that is the length we're going, right about there. And it does need to be rounded with a round brush still because it was brushed at a different length, a round brushed. So, okay, I'm going to split that section. I'm going to add another vertical section and come straight out from the front of the head. So I'm not over directing into the center. This is a traveling guide. It's coming straight out and cutting that off. That's my section number 2. And you can start to see, I'll come in a little bit closer. You can start to see how that edge bevels right there instead of it sitting in a one length line. Now the very last section, so not yet, is what I call the Wednesday Addams piece. So I'm going to actually leave it longer and I'll show you that. So I'm going to leave that little guy right there a little bit longer. So traveling guide, straight out, maintaining that elevation. You can see that I could serve tea right on top there. Right like that. Okay, so I'm going to get both sides exactly where I want them, and then I'll create the piece. Here we go, traveling, splitting my previous section, coming off the front. Now you guys, I have a membership. It's called Sharp Scissors Society, and it is a monthly membership. So what we do during that membership, right now we're going through some classic cuts, but how it started was a lot of people wanted more education on the different techniques that I was doing on my Instagram. And so like 30 seconds or a minute just isn't enough to learn something. And so, Anna Wintour, is that you? I think it is. And so the membership, what we do is I release a couple videos each month. I go live a couple of times, and it's really a great way to learn technique, to be able to advance your skills. And I call them back pocket techniques, things you can pull out of your back pocket and use inside of the salon. So I've had a lot of stylists message me and say, oh, thank you so much. This really helped. Clients are always asking for people that use my techniques. So it's kind of interesting. Okay, so we created our fringe right there. You can see how that's heavy and it still rounds down. So I'm going to come in now. It's over there. Mark, it's over there.
No, they're right there.
I know, but the garbage truck is outside. Okay, I'm in my studio at home. So, Mark, but the window over there is the one that you can close. There we go. Okay, so you can see that right there, the line that I have. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slide, there's 1 finger's length, I'm going to go 2 fingers length, maybe a little bit more past. So I'm going to keep this at the same elevation so it still has that bevel to it. And you can see with that, kind of gives that little bit of that piece. I feel like it's too much, so I'm going to cut it in half. This is why I like to do this at the very end, because I mean, if you want to add more into the fringe, you always can, but if that little spot is gone, you can't recreate it. So there we go. Yeah, and that's better. That's just a little piece. You'll see it when it's done. Okay, other side. This side is actually smaller, so I'm in the right area. Okay, here we go. Slide 1 finger's length, 2, and a little bit. This is a way that I do curtain fringe as well. I'll slide 1 finger's length past my first triangle, then 2, then 3. And it gives a nice, just a nice increase in length. Okay, so let me just round this slightly, and then we'll move into texture. So just using my round brush to kind of just work that under. Okay, and I feel like I need to texturize the top edge just slightly because I can see a little bit of a line, which means my elevation might have been a touch low. It's fine, no worries. I'm going to come in, just take that top layer and just do a little bit of point cutting, just a little bit of parallel point cutting into that edge, which will soften it just slightly. So just picking that top edge up, not all of it, because I really like the bevel that I have going on. I'm just going to give a little bit of softness to it. There we go. Okay, so you can see how that rounds down this way instead of being real blunt. So that is what cutting the square off of the front really does for you. Okay, let's go in now and create some actual texture. Oh, I'm liking that. I like that little, I like a heavy fringe on this particular type of cut. So remember I said that everything is rooted and grounded in classics. So when we lift hair up, we're going to be elevating the hair and creating a lighter shape. So as I come through, let's comb through. I want this to look a little bit more shattered and I want to have a little bit less weight to the shape. So I'm going to come through and I'm going to work with pivoting sections around the back. And then I think I'll continue pivoting all the way through. So this is going to come up and you can see kind of the density of the mannequin head right here. So I'm going to come through, remove with my carving scissors a little bit of that weight and just elevate up. So I'm really carving into this, not necessarily taking away all of the hair, but it is creating a little bit of a layering pattern in the hair. So who do we think is winning out? Does the bob win or does the pixie win? You guys, we've got short fringe, we have short underneath. Now we're going in and placing a little bit of a layering pattern on top. It looks a little bit more like a bob, doesn't it? So I think the bob is coming out on top and is winning in this shape, which is kind of fun. Bob's on top of Pixie. Yep. The bob is coming out on top. But as we go in and create a little bit more texture, we're going to see a little bit of a different feel develop. There's our little piece. Carve into that just a touch. Okay, so here we go. You can see the difference between the two sides. This is the side that I did a little bit of that texture on the top, so it removed a little bit of the weight out, and now we have some shorter pieces on top as well. So I'm going to keep going. Now, if any of you guys are interested in my angel blade scissors, which are the white scissors, and I've got my carven slides, I've got a couple of other options in there as well. You can find those through the link in my bio in Instagram, and then also on my Facebook page. So there we go. Oh, my handle on my Instagram is Sonnabrado, SONNABRADO. So I'm sure most of you guys are on Instagram too, because we're hairdressers, right? So coming through. A very, very layered bob. Oh, on top of a pixie. Don't forget about the pixie. Okay. So at this point is when I would stand my client up and I would start working potentially from underneath. So I'm going to come in and take a look at that. I'll raise her up just a little bit more. There we go. Pretend she's standing. Everybody's tall to me, so then come through and I'm going to do a little bit of carving just to do a visual blend underneath. And I'm liking the texture that it's getting. I feel like we could release texture in the front just a little bit more. So just working. Now that I've created my structure in my shape, I can go in and break it up a little bit, soften it, do whatever I want to it. I'm going to use a little bit of the Moist Repair from KMS again. And what that does is it's going to just help reactivate a little bit of the curl in the hair and the moisture in the hair. So just kind of coming through, giving myself that. Let's look at the other side. Okay, so 2 upcoming classes that will have my, my signature consultation and cutting method, which is all about dividing and conquering. I really feel like there's a strong opportunity to create shape when you look at what the pattern pieces are and you look at how it's structured. So that's going to be in Columbus, Ohio on June 12th. I have a 1-day hands-on cutting. And then in July in Atlanta, I have a 2-day hands-on cutting. So I've got 2 opportunities for you guys coming up. And I would love to see you there. So go on to my site and take a look at those. Yeah, my Instagram site, and it's also on Facebook. It's going to be up there later today. Okay. So I think Bob won out. The Bob is definitely on top of the Pixie right now. And just working some texture into that hair. Got that nice little heavy fringe there. A little less weight right here. So just to recap this particular haircut, what we did was we went in and I started off my disconnection, and it started off right at the recession area. So even though it all looks like it blends, this underneath is a disconnected shape, but very modern, very loose feeling as opposed to kind of the shaved shapes of the past. Then we went through, dropped down the top and carved into the actual shape so that we're getting a little bit more of that bob type of feeling. Then I showed you guys 3 different fringes. So we went in, I did a side swept fringe, a curtain fringe, and then a heavy fringe. And let me see what else. Texture, of course, we did some texture. And I like how that's looking right across that. Right across the that heavy fringe. I think that's pretty cool. And I think that's just about it. There we go. Got to get her a little bit, looking just a little bit better. Hang on. Let's go here. I feel like these pieces right in front just have too much hair. So, and this is something I do with clients as well. If you're not happy with it, just keep cutting a little bit more out, keep working on it. And I had people asking if this was what my haircut is. It's similar, not quite as much disconnection as what I cut into this little gal. Okay.
Thanks, Anna, and her husband.
Yeah, say thanks to Mark. He's making this happen too. Okay. All right. So you guys, here we have it, our little Bob and Pixie, and the Bob definitely won out, but we have kind of a combination of both in those. So you guys go to my Instagram site to find my education, also on my Facebook site. It's Sana Brado. Thank you so much